success for me is why I started and where I am now. From the girl who didn't want a future to the girl living out the dream.
A single letter changed the direction of her thinking and eventually the direction of her life.
I PB'd 9 kilograms and I was like, I'm back where I belong.
And then if we fast forward to 2022, where you nearly walked away from the sport with burnout, what did that period feel like day to day for you?
I just don't want to do this anymore.
Every athlete has a moment where their future feels uncertain, not because of injury or failure, but because the path they thought they were on quietly disappears. Today's guest faced that moment early in life. Sport was always part of her world, but so were the questions about identity, belonging, and what was actually possible. A single letter changed the direction of her thinking and eventually the direction of her life. What followed wasn't a straight line. It involved pressure, burnout, rebuilding, and learning how to stay in a sport without losing herself along the way. Welcome to the podcast, Lottie.
Thank you. That's a nice introduction.
Thank you. So could you take us back to the start? What was sport like for you growing up before it meant anything serious or structured?
Yeah, so, initially at first I used to not really be a fan. When I was in swimming lessons as a young child, probably when I was like 3 or 4 or 5, I used to refuse to get into the pool because it was the scariest thing in the world. And I had an amazing teacher called Jane, and she was like, "Nope, you've got to do this. You've got to get on with it, and nothing. I'm not having it." And she got me in, and I started to slowly find my love for it. And yeah, at primary school, I'd participate in the sport, and I'd make the most of what I could do, because obviously the other kids in my year were taller than me. The teachers would adapt to me. So if we were racing, I'd start halfway down the line instead of at the start, or they'd always find a way, and they're incredible. Yeah, it was swimming for me that initially was my first love, because I was okay at it. I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing I like and I'm good at it. And I remember being in swimming lessons, and this was when I was probably 8 or 9, and I was in swimming lessons at a local leisure centre, and the guy running the classes was like, "She's too good for this class, but the next, I worry she won't be able to keep up because of my condition." And he said, "I know someone that runs a disability swims club. They're just over the road in the other leisure centre. I think you should try them out." And yeah, that was it. I was over there, and I trained with them, and I met people with other disabilities. Not anyone like me, but I met people with quadruple amputee, a lovely girl called Danielle Bailey, people with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and I became part of the community, and it was really lovely. And yeah, it was swimming all the way, basically.
Well, it's lovely that it was inclusivity at school as well, to be able to do that. And what sort of age did you start to become aware of your disability, and how did it affect you, and how you saw yourself at that young age of sort of 8, 9 and that sort of age there?
Yeah, so growing up, my parents raised me incredibly, and they raised me in the way of, you'll just adapt, you'll crack on. And because I'm the only person with dwarfism in my family, I've got my 2 brothers now, they're over 6 foot, so I've definitely got not got that gene. But yeah, I think they raised me incredibly well. And it was in primary school in year 6, I was like, hang on a second, these girls are getting a lot taller than me. How come I'm not getting taller? And then it kind of just spiraled, and it didn't make me want to be around them. So I just didn't want to go into school anymore, and not be like associated with anyone like average height. And I remember Googling limb lengthening surgeries, because that is an option, and ways to be taller. I did all the Googling, which probably didn't help, but I just wanted to find a way out of it, because for me, I thought I was going to be like them, but not just at time, but not but to end up being who I was going to be. It just was scary to me, and I just didn't think I had a future. I wasn't capable of anything. And yeah, it was in that time the school nurse realised, Lindsay, that I was struggling, and she, without me knowing, had reached out to Ellie Simmons because I saw Ellie compete in London 2012 and I was in awe of her because she was like me, and it was like, that is amazing. And one day I got called up to the headmistress's office at my school, and I was like, firstly, what have I done? And then I got presented a letter, and in the letter, so this was the year after London 2012, there were loads of signed memorabilia from London and a letter saying, like, basically, hello, that she'd love me to come down to the National Dwarf Games, which is an event for people with any form of dwarfism to meet up, socialise, and compete in sport, which is the main reason. And I think I've said it, but at the time I'd never met anyone with dwarfism apart from seeing Ellie on TV. This for me was quite. I remember turning up to the event, and I'll always remember this. It was like on a hotel, and there was like a lawn area outside the hotel, and there was some boys playing football. And I thought, oh, they're like me. And walking in, it was just there were dwarfs everywhere. But it was just, I didn't feel alone, and I didn't feel like isolated. I did, and then I met Ellie and Ellie's mum, and there's a photo of when we first met, and it was just, yeah, it was an incredible moment, and that event is such an incredible event because it gave me insight to what I could have as a future to other people with dwarfism. So yeah, it was a hard moment, but it started and gave me a future in a sense.
Yeah. And obviously, that moment you met her and at that young age, did you realize how powerful that moment was going to become, or did it only sort of make sense later on?
No, I had no clue. I think I was at how old would I have been? I think I was 11 maybe. Yeah, because I was in my final. I was in year six, and I had my leavers hoodie on, and I was quite shy to take the photo. And at the event, I was quite shy, and it was very daunting. I think at first because even though these people were like me, I was quite shy with the fact I'm never a stranger still, and I've always been like that. And as I first stepped into the game, I started going off with friends, and it was at there was a disco night, and it's a massive meal, and everyone dances, and it's quite a wild night. And it was at that event and that night I really settled in, socialised more, and was quite, yeah, I was happy in a sense. Like, I wasn't anxious or anything like that because I was with people that liked me. So I wasn't that. Because if I go to, let's say it was like a normal school disco with like average height children, I would have been out of place. But here I was like, oh, this is quite fun because everyone's the same height as you and you can all relate. Yeah, it gave me a belonging, and it was very meaningful.
And that was going to the National Dwarf Games, and you're meeting other dwarfs, but people with dwarfism and things like that. And obviously, it gave you a fantastic sense of belonging that you obviously hadn't had before. What did that change mentally? Not you just as an athlete, but you as a person, do you think?
So I came away from the event, and I just realised that I got out of my little negative point in my life, and I looked at it in a way of there's so much I could do. I am capable of anything I could put my mind to. Yes, certain things I may not be able to do, but some of those things I can't do. It's just finding the long way around. And I always remember looking. There were in my swimming squad. I mentioned the quadruple amputee called Danielle Bailey. I'll always find her incredible. So she was 4 when she uh, contracted meningitis and lost her arms and legs. And she was incredible, cracked on with life, got on with everything, and didn't let it stop her. She would dive off the diving board, like the 5 meter one, which I just couldn't do because I hate heights. And she would crack on with life. She's now living with her family, and she's got a child. And yeah, she's such an incredible lady. And there was another lady who she just became paralyzed, and she was in a car crash, and she also lost her mum in that crash as well. And I thought, look what they've been through, and look how they are now. So even though you've not been through that, but you've got a condition where you're able to do more or have more, what's the word? You're more accessible to do things than they can do. And yeah, it just gave me that spark of let's just do it. Like, and it gave me that drive. And going into secondary school, that was it. I was off and quite determined. And yeah, I was not competed in swimming still. I went to Dwarf Games, and at school, my secondary school, the main sport was lacrosse, and I competed in that. And then eventually, when the girls were getting taller, it became too dangerous. So the school were like, right, no, you're still going to do it, but you're going to be referee. So I did that. But no, it gave me that drive to push forward. And yeah, nothing would stop me, really.
And gave you that inner confidence that you probably knew that was there, but it's nice to be in a community where that can bring out and you can show your true colours, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely.
When did you first try powerlifting? And did it feel natural straight away, or was it a moment of, what on earth am I doing here? Do I need this energy?
Yeah, it's one of those that you just, when I look back, like, if I'd have told like 11-year-old me powerlifting's going to be in your life, they'd be like, how and what happened? So it all started at the Dwarf Games. I had a friend called Megan, and she gave it a go, and I went to watch her do it. And I thought, well, that looks cool. I'll give it a go next year. So I gave it a go the following year. I did a little bit of training leading up to it with my mum's. She had a personal trainer, and she did group classes with him at the time called Jim, and he helped me get into a bit of training and just showing me what it was about. And so I gave it a go. And then the following year, I missed the games because I was doing my GCSEs. Went the year after and entered the powerlifting again. And at the time, I was working with another PT called James. He was helping me with my swimming, and he was like, "Look, we'll try and get a bit of powerlifting. Let's help you get into that position, ready for that competition," which he did. And yeah, I went to it, and at the event there was a British weightlifting coach, two actually, one called Stu Martin and one called Ben Richards. And Ben Richards was specifically from powerlifting. Showed me a bit of the specific technique, and he coached me during the competition. And at that event, I think I only got 42.5. I should be able to remember this, but I don't. I don't remember my numbers. And when I didn't get my last list, I stormed off. I was quite moody. But if you ask anyone, they wouldn't be surprised. That anyone that knows me, they wouldn't be surprised. And Ben approached me and said, "Look, like, come and try the sport out at Loughborough University. We'd love you to give it a go." And I did. At the time, I was looking at universities because I was in just approaching year 13. And Loughborough, I think I'd looked at it because of the swimming aspect, because I was still competing in swimming, but not the powerlifting aspect. And yeah, when I walked away from that conversation with Ben, I was like, yeah, I was excited, but Mum was like, maybe not get your hopes up. And I was like, yeah, good point, because that email may never come. And anyway, the email with the invitation came, and I attended, and it just went from there. I got put onto the National Development Program, and then that was it. The rest was history in a sense.
And it feels like sport wasn't just something you did. It felt like it was a place where things started to make sense for you. And obviously within 10 months, you were representing Great Britain. That seems like an incredible fast track process. What was going through your head when you realised how quickly things were moving for you?
Yeah, that's a moment that still never makes sense to me. So what's funny is the sixth form I was at currently, I joined, and I said I'd do swimming competitively, and I had attended international meets. However, just you can attend them but represent your local town, which is what I did. But I always wanted to GB best in swimming, always wanted it. And the head teacher at the school really wanted me at that school and said, "Look, I want a GB swimming top on my wall." And in my head, I'm going, "Yeah, no way. There's no chance I'm going to be able to get that on my wall." Then, so that was in the probably summer 2018, September. Discovered the powerlifting in May 2019, and then February 2020, I represented GB in my first World Cup in Manchester, and I remember getting the invite, and I was like, "My God!" like screaming, absolutely, like couldn't believe it. And then I received my first box of GB kit, and I remember being picked up from school, and it was in a. I remember the box. It was a DHL box covered in duct tape, and I opened it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is GB kit. This is quite big." And yeah, I represented GB. Didn't get the result I wanted. Was moody again. Story of my life. Then yeah, that was, and then COVID came into place. But what was amazing was I did get that GB top on the wall for the head teacher, which
Yeah.
was quite nice because I never saw that coming, and it was like, okay, that's quite cool.
And was he happy that it wasn't a swimming top and it was a powerlifting top instead?
And he was like thrilled because I think he was desperate for my name on there, and yeah, he was very supportive, which is incredible. And yeah, and I was quite proud to have it on the wall because they supported me a lot, and it was quite a special moment.
Yeah, definitely. And what did that early selection change about what you believed you were capable of?
I think it didn't really make sense at the time because it was because it was 10 months um from being spotted. It just didn't make sense, and I think for me it was just like, is this real? Competing, it was actually smaller than what I was used to in swimming competition wise. Less of a crowd and a smaller room in a sense, or smaller venue. But I still was like quite, I think, in all that I was doing it, and quite, this is quite cool. Yeah, I think, yeah, it was quite a eye-opening moment, but we went straight into COVID after the event. So I think I never processed it truly because my mind then went to finishing my A levels in lockdown and how I would train. So I don't think I really processed that event because I had to focus on other things. But then the following year, I got selected for my second international, and I won a medal there. And I think that was the moment I was like, okay, this is quite good. And then there was a moment in lockdown as well. So we went into lockdown in March, and with pools closing and everywhere closing, I had to stop swimming training completely, but I could train lifting at home because I got some home equipment. So while I'm training at home, at first I was on like a little table bench, and then I got a proper powerlifting bench delivered. And from the March to the August, sorry. In the August, I did a 1 rep max test, and in that space of time, I gained 15 kilograms worth of strength. And for me, it was that moment I was like, okay, that's quite good. And that was the moment I thought, that's my potential. Like, you've got something here. And yeah, it's a moment I'll never forget. And I knew it was a good moment because not only did I get a message from my coach, Ben, but the head coach, Tom, said, well done. Okay, I thought, yeah, I've done something good here.
You're making waves there, which is good. And looking back at that COVID time then, well, obviously with the swimming pool shut and things like that, and your focus went into powerlifting, do you think that was sort of a good shift, that it made you focus just on one sport rather than sort of splitting your energy with two?
Yeah, it sounds bad with obviously with what happened in the world, but it was almost like a calling, or it was meant to be, but like that happened. Which does sound bad to say, because obviously with the awful thing that happened in the world. But yeah, it gave me a thing of, it showed me my potential, and it showed me what I was possible of. And at the time of discovering powerlifting, the dream of becoming a Paralympic swimmer was going out the window. And it was destined to me. And this came in, and it gave me an opportunity. And I was I was just so shocked because I knew I wanted sport to be a part of my life, but I wanted it to be swimming. And I never thought in a million years it would have been powerlifting.
And then if we fast forward to 2022, where you nearly walked away from the sport with burnout, what did that period feel like day to day for you?
Yeah, so it was a very interesting time that I look back, and I was a different person back then. than I was now. And for me, even though it's quite a bad thing that happened, it was probably one of the best things that I needed. Yeah, it all started with me slowly not enjoying training as much. I was very emotional, would go out to toilets to cry in training, and especially when training at Loughborough. So I trained at Loughborough twice a month, and I just used to not love going there. And I'd cry most of the time, and I'd just be in a very negative and sad state. And I remember one time we were doing a breathing workshop, and probably needed it to chill. I I just couldn't. I was so emotional, I couldn't actually do it. And the psychologist was running it, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I just broke down. I said, "No, I'm not." And I remember we were sat in this corridor adjacent to the studio we were just doing the workshop in, the breathing workshop in, and I just was sobbing, and I said, "I just don't want to do this anymore." I'd even drafted an email to the head coach, Tom, saying, "I'm out, can't do it. I don't feel happy here anymore." The psychologist said, "I think you need to speak to a clinical psychologist," which at the time I was like, "I do not want to do that because it makes it a little weak." But looking back, it was the best decision that I ever made. Yeah, with the help of her, I had a clinical psychologist. I found back in love with the sport, and I also became a better person. So I'll give you some comparison. So before I met the clinical psychologist, I would hate taking phone calls. Not really a fan of going out because I was quite anxious. I was anxious of a lot of things, and it would always hold me back. But now I'm not that. And at the time of it happening, the physio was leaving for maternity leave. And then when she came back, it was after her to finish with psychology. She went, "What the hell's happened to her? That's not the girl I knew." And she was like, "I've out of all the athletes I work with, she's had the biggest change, and in a positive way." And for me, I didn't see the change until other people made me aware. Yeah, it was quite it was quite transformative, if that's the word.
Yeah.
It was in April 2023, my comeback competition. I PB'd 9 kilograms, and I was like, I'm back. I'm back where I belong. Because at the last competition, I had an emotional breakdown in the warm-up room. It was not pretty. And yeah, to go from that to um, not only setting a 9 kilogram PB, but putting myself into the Paris ranking, the Paralympic Games, I knew that I was back where I belong.
Something ready. And what's one part of burnout people don't really see from the outside?
That's a good one. It's common. You're not on your own. And sometimes it does need to happen. It's not a bad thing. And it's also, I think, a sign your body is telling you to step back, breathe, and take a break. So I did have a little one recently. Just coming back off the world champ, I just, I didn't have the best performance, and I just wanted to step back for a bit. And I said, "Look, I need time away because I've not had a good time away in a while, and my body is going to burn out fully because at the moment it's burning out, but I don't want to be fully burnt out." And so I did. I took time away, and it was what my body needed. And yeah, if it wasn't for doing that, I don't think I'd be in a great position now, sport wise. But yeah, sometimes it's a way of your body telling you stop, breathe, or take time away. It doesn't have to be a long time, but sometimes the time away is needed.
Yeah. And you started to rebuild I suppose, your mindset with the help of the clinical psychologist, which is a big step. Because as you mentioned, it sometimes can be seen as a sign of weakness. Actually, it's a sign of strength when you step forward. What did that experience teach you about yourself that training alone could never do?
Yeah, it showed me who I really was. I used to let the opinion of others belittle me or own me in a sense, and I used to not really follow my own mind or my own opinion. Yeah, it gave me that revelation of I can do what I want to do. I don't need to do held back because that person is excuse me, that person has told me to hold back. Um, yeah, it gave me a sense of like just go for it. Like, there's no excuse not to do it. No one's watching, no one cares. Like, it sounds bad to say, but like, I used to get worked up about eating lunch in public, so I'd go and hide away to eat it. And it's like, no one cares about you eating lunch at a specific place. Just do it. I look back, I'm like, why did I do that to myself? Why did I hide away? Yeah, it taught me to not take the opinions of others or what I think people are thinking of me when they're probably not. Seriously. And I look back now and I'm like, that was so much pressure. Like, how could I breathe back then? Like, I literally was making my life so, like, limiting it because I was letting these thoughts isolate me. And yeah, it made me realize a lot, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. And again, it's a bigger picture of actually perception, is how you perceive yourself through the eyes of others rather than actually looking at yourself through your own eyes. And it's quite a nice change. And I learned something not long ago, that people often reflect their own insecurities onto others. So actually, when they make a comment towards you, it's actually their inability or lack of emotional intelligence, whatever you'd like to call it, to actually engage with somebody. So that snide comment that somebody gives that lands and maybe sits with you for a lot longer, or sits with us for a lot longer, actually is their own projection onto you, and is trying to make that connection that is them and it's okay for them. And it's been a theme that's come up in quite a few of the podcasts, is knowing your boundaries, is having that nice, clean-cut boundaries. And I think that can only come when you're pushing yourself, like what you're doing and what others have done, and finding that moment, whether it's a little bit of burnout when you need to just reflect, or, as you say, in breathing, and it just overwhelms because your nervous system and your body knows what you need. But this period that we've just spoken about, it sounded like it didn't really hold you back. It sort of reshaped how you approach everything going forwards, really. And if we fast forward to what you do now, how would you describe your relationship with powerlifting today to how it started?
Yeah. I mean, it's a different relationship in a sense, because back then I was so isolated, quite to myself, quite shy. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it all now. Like, I held my training back, and I did it a lot. For example, I can't use that machine because someone next to it. I can't, I don't know, I can't walk to that side of the gym because it'll look odd. I can't do this, I can't do that. And I held myself so back, and it affected my training. And yeah, I look back and think, what was I doing? Because I've got this amazing opportunity, and it's like I didn't realize I wasn't taking full advantage of it, and I thought I was, because yeah, I was oblivious to it. And now I see every opportunity and every like moment, because I've been to the games, I've achieved the dream, and I know what it took to get there, and now I want more because we want podium positions. And so every opportunity now I will take it and grab it, because it's, as my coach says quite negatively, he has a good point, but I'm one fall away from breaking my arm, which touch wood never happens, but I am the clumsiest person in the world. So there's a chance that you're one fall away from breaking your arm and career over. Like, people get injured, people are unable to compete, and it's about taking the moment and the opportunity. And I didn't do it back then when I thought I was. And it's just, yeah, it blows my mind, because yeah, I was thinking, what was I doing? Even though I was like, I progressed well, could I progress better? And it'll be hard to say, but probably, yeah. But we've learned from that, and go into this next cycle. So with the Paralympic cycles, it's 4 years of training, and that's the cycle block. So going into this cycle, which I'm currently in for LA, I'm not holding back. I mean, at the moment, it's been a bit of a challenging time, but I'm dealing with it better than I did 50 years ago. So yeah, I look back and I think, what was I doing? But I learned a lot from it.
And it's a bit about bandwidth there as well, is if your mind is thinking, I can't go to that machine, I can't do this, or I can't possibly be seen doing that, and what's that person thinking about it? if it requires you to use 100% of your mental and physical energy and emotional energy to lift that bar, and we'll get onto some of the specifics in a moment with it, if you've just used 20% to worry about in the warm-up room or in the gym in your training, you're leaving that little bit on the sideline. Also about, I'd imagine, developing as a person as well as an athlete. And I think whoever you are, there is always that progression where you suddenly think, yes, I can do that now. I don't have to take that. And you can start sort of almost saying no to those thoughts and pushing them aside and focusing on a bigger goal and breaking it down.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said I no to a thought yesterday. I think I'll share this because it just shows how my mind works in a sense. At my local gym, I train in two local gyms, but I was at the busier one yesterday, and there were two cable machines, and one of them's easier to do a certain exercise on because of the stability and the weight range. And I was on the other one, and in my head I'm going, I need that one, but it's going to look really weird if I just move to the next one. And there's a guy just on the other side, so I think, why is she moving here? And in my head I'm like, stop, don't do that. You're gonna move it. You're gonna move, and I did. Yeah, it's it's stuff like that. I'm like, why let it? Because that's the thing that held me back. And I was like, nope, you're going over. And I did that. And this is what my psychologist Caroline is trying to she's trying to work with me on, is just because I believe in something, like that guy will find it weird or makes me look bad, doesn't mean it's true. Yeah, it's like proving myself wrong in a sense, because I do believe in the notion, believe it to achieve it, but I'm using that for the wrong theories. I'm using that for, if I walk over there, they're going to think I'm strange. I will win a Paralympic medal. Yeah,
It's just changing that narrative, isn't it? And it's nice that you can now catch yourself having that thought and you can
yeah,
choose whether to accept it or change the narrative, which is a real powerful step, isn't it?
yeah, massively, because it was holding me back, and I was letting my inner thoughts win. I mean, sometimes you need to let them win when it's positive, but if it's negative, you're holding yourself back, and the opportunities are limiting. And yeah, it's essentially proving myself wrong, and that I can do something, or the opinion of others, they won't think, or that it doesn't affect me.
And how has that relationship changed over time with the pressure and expectations and the success that you're reaping?
So there's that famous quote, "Pressure is a privilege," and leading into Paris, the pressure was on because other girls in the world are strong, and they want those spots for the games. And it is a bit scary because essentially there's other girls trying to take away your dream, and judges on the platform trying to take away your dream. And in those moments, you want to be making sure you're doing everything you can, or doing better than them, to beat them and be ahead of them and get those lifts. And that used to be quite daunting for me, but now I live on it, and I do love it. And it's one of those where you go to competitions now and hope you're the one to watch, or hope they are watching you, because some of them will want to play games and they won't want to mess around. But you've got to fight back. You've got to say, like, look, GB are here. Like, you don't mess with GB. And yeah, I don't. Next year is going to be the most competitive year of probably my career, because I've got three majors back to back. So I've got the Europeans in March, Commonwealth Games in July, and then the World Championships in December. So three majors back to back, and there's two opportunities for a medal. I mean, there could be a medal at the World Champs, but the European Champs and the Commonwealth Games. And it's here. Well, as I'm sitting here today, it's like, what can I do now where I can take this opportunity and not hold myself back? So last night in the gym, if I'd held myself back because I was worried what that guy would have thought, like, that's an opportunity gone. And even though it's just that small opportunity, that could have led into a habit of me not going to a machine because it looks wrong. And yeah, you've got this moment now to take it, because one thing, and yeah, it's over in a sense, and it's a harsh reality of sport. I mean, I will open up and say in March I've got to lift 116 kilograms to prove my potential, but other athletes in the sport do as well, and that's what you've got to do, and that's the job we have to do, and show basically our coaches, who are essentially our managers, like this is why we're here, this is why we deserve this spot.
Wow. And you're also very open about disability awareness and female health in sport. Why do those conversations matter to you personally?
Yes. So I'll start with the growing up with a disability, especially dwarfism. I'm used to the staring, the pointing, the laughing, and I've had it. And the hate I'll get on social media in the comments because I post on social media. It doesn't really get to me, but then it does sometimes. And yeah, it can be hard. And for example, I'll plan routes in town. If I'm going shopping, I'll plan routes where I'll most likely avoid groups of teenage lads, or even just teenagers in general, because it sounds bad to say, but they're the worst people for having a disability to meet, because it's like you're a target or a source of entertainment. I kind of treat it as, if they do take photos, I treat it as I'm Harry Styles or whoever. I try and put a light on it, but I know some people with um, my condition have had way worse. They've been assaulted, and yeah, it is quite a harsh reality. And I want to make almost an awareness of it, or to tell people that that this is how we live, and this is what we have to do, to the younger kids with a disability, not to hold back, and don't let the opinions of others affect you, because it was like back when I was younger that it did, and it was hard to live with, but it was Ellie Simmons that got me out of that, and I hope I can do the next for the next generation. And like, for example, I came across a young girl, a TikTok account of a mum and a young girl, and the young girl had dwarfism, and he was like, it resonated with me, because I was like, she's grown up the way you grew up, and she may look to you, and she may be inspired by you, and that gives me like a motive to go forward and have a voice for myself and speak out, and and hopefully make some awareness, because I think there's only obviously a small population of people with dwarfism in the UK, and some people won't know anyone with the same condition, and I think it's important they get to meet or even see others, so if they are unsure of their future, they know what they're capable of. And so that's why I'm really passionate about it, and that's why I use social media as well. And then in regards to female health, I think um, as a female athlete, obviously we have time of the month and all that lot, and being in a weight making sport, our body changes during that time, and there's been times where competing, you've been in agony because of like cramps and everything, but you've had to go on and put a brave face on, and had to eat less because your body weight's gone up too high, because you're about to be due on, and there's so many factors. But I think there needs to be more awareness of it, because it kind of affects the performance badly. And I would like there to be more awareness of it, and hopefully more research on how to deal with it, how female athletes can deal with it maybe better. There might be some out there, but for example, there's divers that are able to compete on their cycle really well, and there's other athletes that can't. And it's like, how can we sort that and help athletes and female athletes not be scared to compete because they're due, or because they are on their period.
Yeah. There's something with a couple of previous guests we've had where we've talked about RED-S, relative energy deficiency in sport, and that's really interesting. So it's fascinating listening to those conversations, and how at that top level, how you can implement some really simple, effective changes will really, really help. And outside of training, competitions and recovery, where do goats and chickens fit into all of this?
So, growing up, outside of being when I wanted to be a Paralympic swimmer, I wanted to be a vet. I was obsessed with animals and loved animals, and for some reason, it was goats that attracted me. It was really random. And I eventually got two pygmies, two male pygmies. One of them's definitely, I don't think we've got the pygmy gene, because almost as tall as me, but I can see them from my window now. But yeah, I have two pygmies, and then we've had chickens, we've had ducks, but we've currently just got chickens. Yeah, they're lovely to have, and it's a nice switch off, and it's that other thing for me to do outside of sport, but it's it's that thing to have, and I think all athletes need that. If you just do sport full time, I think you're asking for a burnout, or you're asking to hate sports or fall out of love with it. So you need that switch off, and yeah, goats and chickens are mine.
And what's one myth about disability or parasport that you'd really love to put in the recycling bin or in the incinerator for good?
I think for me, it's just because you've been you're born with a disability, or you've had an accident and diagnosed with the condition, your life's not over. Because I've been to a Paralympic game, and just walking into that dining hall, you could go up to any one of those athletes and they will tell you an inspiring story about why they're there. Could train with athletes who've got inspiring stories, who almost wouldn't be here today if it weren't for sport. And it's people like that show that just because your life's been changed, it doesn't mean it's been changed for the like in a bad way, and you can change it for the better, and nothing will stop you. Yes, certain things will take a longer way to get around, but you can still do it. Certain things you might not be able to do, but you can still do other things, and you just adapt into that and finding the way, or finding your purpose, because I think you can be capable of what you can achieve, and just because you've got a condition doesn't mean your life's over. And yeah, because that's what I thought my life was when I was like 10, 11 years old. But sport was my future, and yeah, I I wish it was more out there that you can do anything. Like your life's not over. Just go for it.
And again, it's perception, but it's also probably people without disabilities could probably look at it and go, after COVID, we had a new normal. It wasn't the normal before, and actually that could be, we could take some elements of that and think and be able to understand what a new normal is. And that's what you're just describing there, is it is a new normal, and sport is a great vehicle for self-discovery, self-expression, a little bit of competitiveness. And you can go, can't you? You can go into so many different avenues once you've got sport, because it gives you purpose, confidence, motivate, self-drive. If there was a young girl listening to this with dwarfism who's unsure about her future, what would you want her to hear the most right now?
Firstly, she'll be okay. Most of that she will be okay. Secondly, it's go for every opportunity you get given. Try that new thing. Go try the new sport. If you want to do it, do it. Because just because someone says you can't, just because you said the doctor says, oh, you might not be able to do that, doesn't mean you can't. It's like I was told I would be dead before I was born. Obviously not. And it's, yeah, I think doctors will give sometimes young kids that thing of, you might not be able to do that, but you can do other things. But why can't they do that? There's still that's a way around. And yeah, take the opportunity to go for it. And just because you do stand out, or you do have a disability, it's your superpower. Like, you use it to your advantage. You go and get the future you want, and just take every opportunity, and don't let anyone or the opinion of others or anyone hold you back, because you're capable of so much.
And what do you know now that you would have liked to have known, or has changed how you see yourself now to back then?
I think if I was year 6 Lottie, going through that period, I would love to her to have had the glimpse of where she is now and what she's doing, because she's living the dream, which she never thought she would have to do. It's just, yeah, showing her what she's capable of, and how eventually she didn't let the opinion of others hold her back. And she cracked on, and she just did it. And I think at the time, for her, that would have given her that boost to go, yeah, I can do that. I can push myself to the best that I can be, and I'm not going to let anything hold me back.
And let's talk a little bit about Paris. Not necessarily the result, but the journey to get to that platform. What does that moment represent for you now?
Yeah, it was a very special moment that. It was the thing I'll never forget. It takes a lot of work to get there. I won't say it's easy because it's not. It is hard. Yeah, it's a journey. It's a long one, but it's worth it. And you can't do it alone. Every dream needs a team. And I've got an incredible team. I've got the British weightlifting team from Ben, my coach, Tom, the head coach, Katie, the physio, for anyone on the British team. And at home, I've got Dave, who trains with me. I've got my local physio, Tom. I've got a sports therapist called Mark. And it's all those people, those incredible, wonderful people that helped me achieve my dream. Because I couldn't do that alone. You need your people. And yeah, to compete in Paris after all those years of hard work was incredible. And a quote I like is, "Life's a climb, but the view's great." The climb was to Paris. However, the view was when I was on the platform getting announced and seeing a sea of GB flags and all my family and friends. There's a video captured of the moment, and you could just see it was like, I made it in a sense. This is my moment. Yeah, it's something I'll never forget. It was the most incredible day of my life.
Amazing. And looking ahead, what feels exciting about what's next for you? Not necessarily just in sport, but beyond the in life and beyond the competition.
Yeah, so I think what I'm excited for is creating more of a platform for myself through social media and through sport, but just getting more awareness of what I do about my sport, my condition, and getting myself out there. I think, yeah, in sport wise, I think I've got an opportunity now, obviously, to get on the podium, which would be incredible. When I joined the sport, I was around 30 kilograms away from a medal position, and now I'm around 10 kilograms, and it's like, actually, no, I was way further away than when I started. I was probably around 60 kilograms plus from when I started from a medal position, and now I'm around 10 kilograms, and it's like, you've got to take this opportunity now to beat these other people. So, like, like determined in me, but that's what you've got to have. You've got to have that mindset. And next year will be an exciting year, and I've got this belief it will be a positive and rewarding year. And yeah, it's gonna be exciting, and I know I'm going to take off every opportunity I can. I've already had some fantastic opportunities come through ahead for next year, and I just know I'm going to take them and use them to my advantage, and yeah, live out the dream.
And you can just see your passion for it, and you can see where you're thinking about the events that you've got coming up. You can just see the
Yeah.
enthusiasm, the energy coming through, which is fantastic. And how do you define success now compared to when you first started chasing what you thought success might have been?
I used to think success was winning. Well, you've only been successful if you win. But no, success is, it can vary for anyone. So for some people, it can be just getting out of bed one day or being able to get outside, being able to go and see your friends. It depends on what your situation is. Even a small thing could be a success. For me, success for me is where I started and where I am now. From the girl who didn't want a future to the girl living out the dream. And that's my success. Not, yes, I went to Paris and lived out the dream, but I'm currently living out the success of young me. That's what it is, yeah.
Brilliant. From finding belonging through sport to rebuilding your relationship with pressure and performance, it's been brilliant hearing your journey, Lottie. Thank you for sharing it so openly and being a part of 360 Life Stories.
Thank you for having me.